there were definitely moments where, I noticed like the tightness feeling in my chest. I would notice a lump in my throat. Those are physiological signs to me. Those are the main ways really that I start to experience anxiety in my body. And I know that about myself. So I have a bevy of things I can do to help myself calm down. So like I have my little soft, like plushy, squishy dudes. These are nice little soft dudes that I can squeeze and pet that can help. I have like different ways of you can do the butterfly hug thing, but I can also do it down on my legs. I can just kind of cross and like tap a little bit there. I did grounding things where I tapped my feet on the floor to get myself more like connected to that part of my body or whatever. There were a couple of times during breaks where like my camera was off and stuff. I actually just got up and did some like jumping jacks and stuff and like some high knee running in place stuff because I just had a lot of energy I needed to burn off. Hello and welcome to the Trauma Informed SLP. I am Kim Neely. SLP stands for Speech Language Pathologist, of which I'm a licensed one here in the United States. And on this channel, I like to use my special interest of trauma-informed care and my clinical training and experiences and my own personal experiences of being late diagnosed neurodivergent and queer and stuff. And also like my academic knowledge and whatnot from a couple of years of a neuroscience PhD kind of thing to unpack stuff. That's what I'm doing here. So hello, welcome, hi. And today, hopefully, this is a follow-up video to my Physiology of Feels video, which is where I talk, it's a longer video, but it is chaptered, so you can always go reference it. It's there mostly as a reference video for people, but it's where I break down how our limbic system works, like in the neurological, physiological way, neurophysiology, if you will, of how our feelings work and how they connect to our autonomic system when it comes to fight, flight, freeze, and that kind of thing. So feel free to check that guy out a bit because this video right here today, I'm going to be doing a unpacking of a recent occurrence in my life where I needed to pull on all my knowledge of academically the knowledge about how feelings work and my old mental health support that I've had and mental health therapists that I've seen and my own awareness of self to kind of help me get through it, essentially. And honestly, I'm a little proud of myself. I think I got through it pretty dang well. I'm giving myself some kudos for that. But yeah, let's talk about it. Let's go. Here we go. So for the last year or so, I've been going through a divorce. Yay. Now, it'll be an okay thing. It'll be all right. I've got my counselor. I've been doing the work, right, to get through this and to emotionally process and blah, blah, blah. And it was really hard at first. And maybe one day, if you guys are interested, I could go through the whole like grieving process of all of this and everything. But the main thing I want to talk about is essentially during like the legal side of this whole divorce process. The marriage has been 15 years, so we have a lot to parse out. We both started as students together with nothing, and now we have assets and stuff. So, there was a lot of stuff to parse out, okay? And due to all kinds of reasons, I guess, I don't know, life happening in like certain lawyers and whatnot, I don't even know what happened. But basically, we ended up in the court-ordered mediation session, which is essentially where you go to it's like the last-ditch effort to settle before you have to go to litigation. So the ordered mediation, you can avoid this in the state that I live in, but we did not. We had to have it. So it can be multiple days, but ideally, I think they try to get it done in one day. At least my lawyer explained to me this is what they try to do. But what this means is basically it's a meeting that's on your calendar. Luckily, it's all through Zoom, at least nowadays. So that was nice. Didn't have to get up and drive anywhere for anything and be somewhere for a really long time. So that was lovely. But it's like an 8-hour, potentially 9-hour day where I'm there with my lawyer in one Zoom room and he's there with his lawyer in another Zoom room. And there's a court-ordered mediator who's going between the two parties and like trying to come up with some deal, basically. It's like, let's make a deal with your life, basically, right? There's this whole spreadsheet of stuff you have to go through for the finances. And then in my state, it's called maintenance, but it's essentially alimony, like spouse support, which would be for me because I'm the lower earning spouse for sure. So yeah, it's been a whole thing. And given the ADHD brain, the fact that this was going to be plugging through just going through a spreadsheet is like, I was like, that already sounds like 8 hours to go through a spreadsheet sounds like my nightmare. It's like, oh my God, that's exactly what my brain doesn't want to do. I know there are people's brains who love doing this, and I love you guys. I love that you exist. I love that there are those people out there that love that. It's just like, honestly, neurodivergents who hyperfixate on like cleaning. You're out here saving lives, guys. Heck yeah, because I'm not that person. I love that they love it. That's great. But yeah, no, for me, I was like, oh Lord, this is going to be a lot, right? And so my issue going into it is that like I knew there were going to be aspects of this that were going to be triggering for like I have certain childhood trauma things around like money and stuff that's going to be triggered. I knew like there would probably be some triggers when it comes to like the kinds of arguments that you've had with your soon to be or now ex-spouse, right? Like I have a really good memory, so I knew I would have memories triggered of very unpleasant things and that would stress me out, basically, right? So I knew that it was going to be tiring, right? Like it was going to be mentally exhausting from that I'm staring at a spreadsheet and having to talk numbers all day, which is totally not my thing. That's going to be that's mental effort already, having to focus up on that, okay? And then I would have this emotional effort side of it too. That would be very exhausting, right? And I knew that going into it. And so, and I would have to have sustained attention on the whole thing, right? I knew it was going to really tax my attention networks, basically, to stay focused and like locked in, if you will, as the youths say, I guess. Are the youths still saying locked in? Are we still doing that? Is that a thing? I don't even know. I can't keep up anymore. So, like I knew I'd have to stay locked in for like 8 hours. That's a long time to lock in for an ADHD brain, okay? Especially for stuff you really don't enjoy. Things that are not of interest to you as much. Important things, but not things my brain likes to attend to, okay? So, right. So I ended up having a lot of anxiety around the meeting coming, partly because, yes, there's a lot of decisions to make and a lot of this and that, but I also had a lot of anxiety around like just, this is going to be so tiring. This is exactly what I don't want to have to do, right? Like this is not, and let me tell you, this is not like a neurodivergent friendly scenario at all, right? And maybe I could have asked for accommodations or something and asked for it to be broken up into different days, but that would be more expensive with the lawyer. So I was like, you know what? I think I can figure it out. I think I can make it through. There's always a cost benefit, right? To like trying to change things up and make it more accessible for yourself. Or just kind of pushing through, which is essentially what I decided to do. I was like, I could just push through. This will be okay. Because with anything, with legal stuff and court stuff, I think for pretty much anywhere, but anytime bureaucracy gets involved, it's like, whatever you ask to do slightly outside of the box of what the court wants is going to be a whole deal. It's going to require paperwork and this and that and blah. So it's like, you know what? All right, we'll just push through it, right? So like, I knew I was going to be exhausted. I knew I was going to be drained by the end of it. I had a feeling I would likely be somewhat sleep deprived that day, mostly due to the anxiety building up to the day, right? When you have a dreaded thing coming up and you have that anxiety around, you're just going to have to go through that thing you don't want to go through. Yeah. So I knew that would happen. And, I knew that like, thanks to me kind of doing my own like businessy things here, I could just go ahead and clear my schedule for the next couple days after and just take like the rest of the week off, right? But if I had been working full time in schools or whatever, I probably would have put in, I mean, it was in the summer, so technically I would have had that off anyway. But if I were working full time, I likely would have put in to have work off for at least the day after, at least one day, if not both days after. I would have taken those days off. I would have put in for that earlier because like I was going to be too tired. There's no way I would want to like go and go to work like the next day. I would want a day off for myself. So that was just something knowing about myself. I just knew the anxiety itself was going to be exhausting. I was likely going to be sleep deprived. And then I would have all this draining mental and emotional stuff happening. And then a day off would be good, at least at this age. Maybe when I was in my 20s, I could have pushed through and just dissociated and just done it. But at this age, 47, yeah, I would just take the PTO. I'm just gonna take the day off. I'm just gonna I'll just put in for it, man, because blah, right? So, also prior to the meeting, I have some friends I've made through this board game group that I've been going to for almost a year now. Coincides with, the divorce thing. That was actually a strategy, quite frankly, guys. That was one of my things being trauma informed. I knew that community is going to be a big piece of healing through a big life transition like this. So I purposely sought out meetups and groups and stuff. And I lucked into getting a really nice group of friends at this one board game meetup, which was not the only one I went to, but this one has got some great folks there. And I had let them know that maybe I wouldn't, that was the games would be that evening after the meeting. I was like, I might not be there, but if I do go, I'll be really tired, but I probably just want to do party games. I'll just be there for company, I'll be there to get out of my own head and just decompress a bit. Right. So, and I've personally found going to those meetups through this whole process. I have a knitting group meetup and I have the board game groups and I have some other groups that I've checked out some, and those are my two main ones though. But I've been finding it a great way to get just out of my own head when I'm sitting there ruminating on something, and then I have a group come up and it's like, oh yeah, I need to just go there and just do a thing. Even if I'm mostly passively just there. It's still really nice just being around other people, listening to them chatting, me getting to drop some sarcastic jokes. It's just been super, super helpful, So anyway, all right. So that was the prep I did essentially. And lo and behold, yes, I was a little sleep deprived. Let's get to the day of the meeting though. Let's scooch along here. So, because this is where I really had to put a lot of my skills to use, my knowledge and skills. And I'm genuinely proud of myself. I think I did a pretty dang good job of this, okay? So throughout the day, especially earlier in the day before I was super tired, so kind of the first 4 to 5 hours or so of the day, there were definitely moments where, I noticed the tightness feeling in my chest. I would notice a lump in my throat. Those are physiological signs to me. Those are the main ways really that I start to experience anxiety in my body. And I know that about myself. So, thanks to my understanding that is my autonomic system, that's probably the anxiety ramping up. That's probably the fight, flight, freeze thing happening, right? So I knew that was likely it. So I have a bevy of things I can do to help myself calm down. So I have my little soft, plushy, squishy dudes. These are nice little soft dudes that I can squeeze and pet that can help. I have different ways of you can do the butterfly hug thing, but I can also do it down on my legs. I can just kind of cross and tap a little bit there. I did grounding things where I tapped my feet on the floor to get myself more connected to that part of my body or whatever. There were a couple of times during breaks where my camera was off and stuff. I actually just got up and did some jumping jacks and stuff and some high knee running in place stuff because I just had a lot of energy I needed to burn off, almost an anger kind of level, kind of getting upset level. And I just needed to burn off some of that anxiety. So I just got my heart rate up briefly just to I mean, shoot, it helped a lot. So I had a whole bevy of strategies ready to go for me. And thanks to it being on Zoom, it was pretty easy to put those things into practice. If this were going to be an in-person thing, I would have had to come up with different strategies probably. But it was nice to have a little more freedom to just do whatever as needed, So basically the way my alexithymia tends to work, I have other videos on that stuff, but I will be doing a longer video on alexithymia. Thanks to having that physiology of feels, we can now talk about alexithymia in a little more detail because I can just reference that video for how the system works. Huzzah! But basically, alexithymia is being unable to recognize your own emotions or the emotions of others, especially consciously, at least, in your conscious brain, right? And I have alexithymia for sure, whether it's from trauma or neurodivergency or both, whatever. I got it. It's a thing. It's gotten a little bit better. I've gotten better at recognizing sensation in my body and what it means, but that's just through effort and awareness and mental health work and applying things, right? So due to my alexithymia, I usually feel things in my body first, and then I have to kind of work, I guess, backward kind of to like reason through what I'm actually feeling to try to identify it. And quite frankly, in situations like this, where it's a meeting and I'm stressed already and I already know it's tough, I didn't feel like labeling my emotions was that needed at this moment in time, right? It's like, you know what? I can label these emotions later. Right now, I just need my body to stay as chill as I can get it. You know what I mean? So that is what I focused on, was really more the autonomic body part of it and keeping my sympathetic not too activated, basically. I didn't want to have a full-on anxiety attack, which I have had in professional meetings, by the way. I've had full-on panic attacks. And yeah, it feels awful because you know you're being judged for being unprofessional, but it usually happens in professional settings. It usually happened when, oops, get that out. It usually happens when you know there's going to be like, it's a meeting about something not great, but you don't know what it's about. And then you get kind of blindsided by the topic. I've had anxiety attacks, full on panic attacks, from those type of meetings. So luckily though, I didn't have that with this. There were no like huge surprise attacks. You know, my lawyer let me know what it was going to be like, which is great. So I could use a lot of grounding techniques and breathing, even though sometimes deep breathing doesn't really help me in the moment. And that's fine. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, man. I just moved on to my next thing, right? I also was like busying my hands with like some sewing projects and like some whatever, like crochet stuff, you know, like just grab a thing and start doing something with your hands and moving around a bit during breaks. And then there was a 20-minute lunch break, which I didn't really eat very much because I was too anxious. So I actually allowed myself to release some of my emotions during that 20-minute break because it had been building up for a bit. And so I actually allowed myself to go ahead and cry a bit. And I used that like butterfly hug technique thing, which I think I talked about in the regulation video, I believe, which I could do a separate video on regulation strategies if you want a separate video on that. I'm happy to do so. Let me know in a comment below if you'd like to hear about these. So do the butterfly hug thing where I could just breathe through it to keep myself from getting too activated. And like I said, instead of trying to figure out what I was feeling, I just was crying a bit. And then I literally just used like my conscious self-talk. I guess it's kind of an inner child type of thing. I don't know. I'm not a mental health provider, so I'm not sure what you would call this, but I basically was doing a lot of self-talk to myself of being like, you're actually safe. This isn't a threat to your survival. You are very safe. This is just a hard emotional thing. You feel crappy because it's hard. It's okay. It's a sucky situation, but you're going to get through it. It's going to be okay. You're not under any kind of threat. And I kept doing that consciously because I didn't want myself to go too far into like a meltdown, right? And so I was doing that plus this and the breathing and whatever to just kind of purge some of those emotions, which was a good choice. I wasn't even worried about what emotion I was feeling. I was just giving myself some comfort, some self-hugging kind of thing, whatever. And then, you know, so that was like maybe a 10-minute cry, splash some water on my face, get back into it after the 20-minute lunch break. And honestly, by the end of the day, though, like after lunch, the bigger discussions had already happened by then. So the rest of the day wasn't nearly as like triggering per se. And also, quite frankly, I think my mental exhaustion started taking over. So I was feeling a lot less of the lump in the throat and the tight chest stuff. And I was feeling a lot more of like I just want to be done with all of this. Like, blah, you know? But yeah, like I was just getting tired basically, which I expected. I figured my brain and my emotional system was just going to get freaking tired throughout the day because look, you only have so much energy in your body at one moment in time for anything. And that includes your emotions, you know, you only have so much like ATP in your cells for like emotional releases and autonomic responses and stuff. At some point you're going to, you know, you're going to kind of deflate a bit. The energy is going to burn off and you're going to get really tired, which is where I was at by the end of it, which I expected. Now, after the meeting was done, it was a little over, I think, was it about, I guess it was, yeah, it was a little over 8 hours, I think. It was like, we're getting closer to 9 hour mark by the end of the day there. But after the meeting, I actually did feel a little shaky in my body. I wasn't sure if it was because of hunger, because I hadn't eaten any much. I think I had like maybe in like one of those Kind bars with like the nuts and like the chocolate and stuff. I'm not affiliated with them. I just think they're nice. So I had that and I had some water. But I was like, maybe I'm a little hungry. It could be hunger. And I knew though that my brain, the only thing I could recognize consciously is that I was feeling a huge mix of emotions. That's all I could recognize. Couldn't label a dang one, but I was like, I'm feeling a lot of things. Like in Inside Out, the first one where they have the mixed emotions near the end. It's like that, but like with all of them in one little, okay, just bleh. The glass case of emotions, if you will. I did allow myself to cry a bit because of that, because I think I just felt overwhelmed and exhausted and shaky. So I cried a little bit more with the butterfly hug and the you're not under threat. You're just letting the emotions out a bit. Like just gave myself a good like 10 or 15 minutes worth of a decent cry there. And then because my emotions were so hard to identify, because I felt this rush of like this complex chunk of emotions, I was just like, you know what? I'm going to work through that later. It's okay if I don't know what these emotions are right now. It's okay. I'm just having them. I'm just going to let them be there. And I'm going to go drink some water and eat some food, because maybe some of what's so confusing is just the need of like just hunger and exhaustion. Like I don't have the mental energy to try to parse through all these emotions right now, basically. So it's like, you know what? Emotions aren't a danger. Emotions are just emotions, right? Something I've been working on for myself. It's not a threat to have a big flood of emotions, right? Especially not if I'm just like kind of hanging out by myself, right? So it's like, yeah, it's like, okay, I can feel a mix of emotions. I don't have to identify them right now. That's not necessary, Let's get a little food. Let's get some water. I splash some more water on my face to help kind of kick in like parasympathetic activation, to help like relax my brain, to help me kind of come back to my body and be like, hey, you're actually fine, right? And that shakiness I was feeling did decrease over time, which that makes a lot of sense. And this is something I think I mentioned in my meltdowns video, where I talked about like when you have a really heightened sympathetic response to something with all your adrenaline and stuff coursing through your body, it's going to take a while for those hormones to kind of flush out of your body. So sometimes that shakiness you feel, or that like ugh feeling you feel, even though you're starting to relax, if you're like just on that cusp of you're starting to relax and you're feeling shaky and gross in your body, it might be the hormones that just are going to take a while to get out of your body. Like a switch doesn't flip and like you don't get out of that sympathetic response immediately. So I think, and because I knew that about that, I wasn't too worried about the shakiness, right? I was like a little, ooh, but it's like, you know what? I think that's just the anxiety and all this adrenaline and stuff that was still in my body. It was still working its way out, to help kind of flush that out. And then, with a snack and some food and some dinner later, I did end up going to the game group, which was actually really great because I actually ran into one of the people who knew my situation on my way in. I ran into him and it was actually really nice because like, I think that friend, like, I was at a table, like planning what games to play. I was at the table with that friend and he seemed to steer people more toward like lighter games with me. Like other people were proposing slightly heavier games and he kept like kind of steering them more toward a lighter game. And I was like, that was really sweet. I think that he did that because like this person, like he doesn't care about he loves heavy games. So it's like, that's fine. Or like more of the midweight games because it's a shorter meeting. You can't do like 5-hour games. But he was sort of pointing away from games that would take like the whole 2 hours or whole 3 hours to play. And I think he might have done that because I reminded him on my way in that it's like, yes, this was the day of the mediation. I'm doing okay, but I'm tired and I'm going to get a drink because I'm here early. I'm going to have a drink, and then in 3 hours I'll be okay to drive, and just like chill for a bit. And so that was really nice. And it was really nice it was a nice, even though I was tired, it was nice to do, just have some, those party games where you just can kind of shit talk with people and stuff, right? Like, it's just fun and crack some jokes and like, it was really nice, right? And so, it was a nice way of just kind of helping take a break from the stress, but also get out of my own head of like, this is the stuff of life I like, right? Like this is life. This is what I can have more of, and it'll be fine. And like, it was just nice. It was pleasant. So, yeah. And then the next day I slept in. I think I even took a nap after sleeping in. I walked my dog a bit, which was nice because it was a nice day outside. Like, the next couple of days I mostly just took it easy because I still felt tired. Like my brain still felt very foggy and very exhausted. It took a good 2 to 3 days before I felt like my brain was back online really the way that it normally is to some extent. Some of that could have also been perimenopause. I don't know. Some of it could have been the meeting and exhaustion. Some of it could have been hormonal because perimenopause, who knows what's going on with that. So that's a very big possibility that it took me that long to recover because of that. But yeah, that's what I was up to. And upon reflection, like I think I did a really nice job of balancing like the sympathetic responses and the trauma triggers that I knew about and being able to recognize those. I think I did a pretty good job of getting myself through the day. I think it went the best it could for me, emotionally speaking. I was able to stay like present and with it cognitively so that I could really think through things and make decisions for myself. And like, that was really awesome. And like, listen, like, well, definitely mid-20s me would not be able to do that because mid-20s me was going through a post-concussive thing. I had a TBI thing in my mid-20s. And so post-TBI me was definitely not going to be able to handle that kind of a meeting. But even then, like even pre like mental health me, like pre like trying to do some healing from traumas and stuff me, I would not have been able, I don't think, to get through that meeting that way. I think there probably would have been a lot more tears and a lot more emotional reactivity and possibly meltdowns and stuff. And I felt like I was really kind of proud of myself for applying so much of the knowledge I've gained over the last it's been like maybe 13 years since I really started like mental health treatment in earnest, to like heal from childhood things and all kinds of stuff. So like, yeah, I was pretty proud of that, to be honest. And, it taught me a lot about how much I've grown and how much I can do, even if I don't want to do the thing. And it kind of helps to retrain my brain to understand what I can, survive, even though like my brain thinks I can't, and then be like, no, you actually can. See, haha, look at that. You did it. Awesome. Go you. Right. And I don't know. I think some people would call this strength, but I think personally, I just call it awareness, self-awareness, pretty much. Just increased self-awareness and knowing and having a wide toolbox of strategies to help me with my emotional regulation, right? Like it's just that. Plus, honestly, quite frankly, I cannot underestimate the power of my antidepressants and the extended release Adderall that I took for that day, which I need to get my prescription renewed because I'm out right now. But like honestly, like especially antidepressants, like my ability to handle my anxiety is way better with antidepressants than it ever was before I took them, because I would have these conscious thoughts of like, you're not actually under threat, you're actually fine, blah, blah, blah. But my emotional brain, the anxiety and the depression side of things would not listen to, like there was zero connection from conscious thought to actual emotional processing prior to having the medication. It was extremely hard for me to make those sort of connections. So, and even like calming your body and recognizing autonomic stuff was kind of hard sometimes then. So I can't really underestimate that either. That's been helping me a lot, which I know not everybody can tolerate those very well. And I know not everybody receives the same benefit from them. So I guess mileage may vary on that, but I don't want to underestimate that either, that like medication really does make a big difference in terms of how well my emotional system actually responds to my conscious thoughts and how much I can actually redirect my brain away from anxiety spirals and stuff that I straight up could not do very well at all before medication. Like, nah, you know? Which is actually one of the reasons I went on the medication, because trying to prevent anxiety, like panic attacks and meltdowns and these kind of things prior to medication, it required everything in life to go perfectly and to eat well and to always exercise. And like I had to be really rigid with my routine and this and that. And then I had a loss in my family, and that made me realize that like I can't control life like that. So that's why I got on medication to begin with. And you know, yeah, it is very helpful to help me with processing things. So anywho, that is to say, I mean, medication wise, this is just my own opinion and my own experience with it. It's not promoting it for anybody necessarily, but you know, you talk to your own medical people if it's something you're considering mental health wise for some kind of help, and follow their instructions in terms of follow-ups and stuff, because that's important to get the right fit and to know if it's working and la la la. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting because like I do think there is a side to, especially in my field, where people act like knowing how to regulate your own emotions is somehow like the key to everything, and everything's going to be great and peaceful and wonderful once you figure it out. And it's like, no, some days are still going to be really hard, and sometimes you're still going to be very upset, and sometimes you're still going to be right on the cusp of a big anxiety attack or a meltdown or what have you. Yeah, like that doesn't prevent those things from happening, but it does mean that I can pre-plan my own self-care. It means I can get through very hard things that I would not have been able to get through prior to having this awareness and these tools and these strategies. And it means that I can be a lot more compassionate toward myself when it comes to just understand, like, I don't know, for me, even just the understanding that like emotions require energy, like literally, you know, all the autonomic, all the adrenaline stuff, like that's burning up energy in your cells, in your body. And like, you're gonna run out of that and you're gonna be exhausted. And that makes total sense, right? Like it's literally draining your battery, literally, right? And so it's like, even that just helps me with understanding the importance of rest and recovery and allowing myself rest and recovery and being really compassionate to myself when it's like, I can only do so much if I'm in a rest and recovery stage. I can't expect a lot of myself at that point. I'm just going to do what I can, right? And like get the things done. If there's something really pressing, I'll get it done. But like, we're not going for perfection, and we're going for done, right? We're getting it done, and then we're going back to resting and recovering. And it's like, it's really helped me with reframing the idea of like laziness, right? Because our bodies are not built to just keep going forever, obviously. I mean, that seems like a duh, but it's like, yeah, like our bodies have natural rest cycles. We have a rhythm, we have a circadian rhythm, right? For like digestion and sleep and all kinds of stuff. And so it's like, rest and recuperation is extremely important. And it's important to give ourselves the grace of doing as much as we can to rest, even in the midst of being busy, right? Even just taking little nibbles, little snacks on a few moments of rest, you know, snacking on rest. That's like a concept that I think of for myself with that, where it's like, you know what, I'm going to take 2 minutes. I'm going to watch like Girl with the Dogs groom a cute puppy for a couple minutes. It's going to be my rest, you know? Just little things like that it does make a big difference, at least for me. And it really, really helps deprogram the shame around laziness, because look, I just came off something that maybe to other people, I'm sure nobody probably thinks these mediation meetings are like fun. I doubt it. Maybe some lawyers, maybe, I don't know. But most people going through it, I don't think would be like, yay, rah, this is great. But there definitely are certain people for whom that meeting is probably not that stressful and not quite as exhausting. And then there's people like me where it's like, man, I didn't melt down. Heck yeah. I didn't get so overwhelmed by all my sensations internally that I had a meltdown. Winning. Yes. And I was able to continue to make conscious decisions and stuff, not based off of like a feeling of fear. And that's a really big win for me. Huge win. But it also took a lot of energy and a lot of preparation and a lot of know-how to do that. And so like, yeah, I needed to recover because that was big. That was big for me, So anyway, I thought I would share that. A little bit of a win there to share, but also just kind of how I've been applying. I just thought maybe was this helpful? That's what I want to ask. Was it helpful hearing like how I applied this knowledge I have of my own brain and my own body and sensations and feelings and the work I do to help myself get through a hard thing and then also regulate through it and also recover from it, right? Because we don't often give ourselves the time to recover, and that's a huge piece of it that is usually forgotten. So let me know if this was helpful. If you want me to go into more detail with any of this, I can definitely do so. If you haven't seen the Physiology of Feels video and you think some of this knowledge might help you, feel free to do so. I do have a video on regulation where I do talk about regulations, or at least categories of strategies near the end, but I can definitely do a separate one if you would like, in order to expand your own toolbox when it comes to this kind of regulation stuff. And yeah, how about, and also for you guys, like, has any of this helped? Do you have any nice reframes for like, instead of laziness, it's recovery or rest, or you know what I mean? If you have any awesome reframes for this type of stuff, or, whatever, drop a comment below, let me know. Other things you want me to talk about, drop it in a comment below or send it to me on my Google form that's downstairs. That's downstairs. Like there's stairs on YouTube. The metaphorical stairs that's called the show notes. Down there, you have there's a little form you could click on. If you don't want to leave a comment, you can send me, and also there you can send me links and stuff too. If there's like, what do you think about this video? Or what do you think about this comment that was on Reddit that I saw, or what have you? You can do that. To put that there for me, because yes, I am going to be moving out of this house sometime probably in the next 2 to 3 months. So logistically things might get a little hectic and crazy, but I really am hoping to do some sort of more chill videos, at least in the meantime, before I get back into the more academic deep dives that require a little bit more effort on the editing side. But yeah, if you have Q&A type ideas, feel free to drop them or send me a link in the Google form. And I would love to do more of that kind of a thing. And maybe also, is anybody interested in like a live? I haven't ever done a live, but I could try. We could try a live. If anyone is interested, just let me know if anybody's interested. Because if there's like 2 people interested, that would work. That'd be great. Maybe they'll do a live. Woohoo! And we do like a chat thing or what have you. And maybe we can come up with like a theme for the live, maybe Q&A or what have you. Anyway, all right. That's all I have for today. And I have to sign off. How do I sign off? I think I remember now. Hold on. Okay. Right. And in the interest of having us all create a safer community for each other, I want us to all use our weirdness powers for good, for connection and stuff. And in that sense, I wish for us all to keep it weird. And until next time. Bye, guys. I feel like I forgot to say something, but I don't know. I probably didn't.